Howdy folks, Doc here with Last Best Tool, and I'm going to take a little deeper dive into the CIVIVI Elementum. They sent me this. They've sent me some other products over time. I'm actually working on a project using some of the small CIVIVI things like their pry bar and their titanium whistle in a kit I'm working on. Here's the tweezers I did a review on. Love these little tactical tweezers. Just the precision is great. Durability, safety, because you can recess it into this box. But I'm here for this guy. Now what this is a small flipper pocket knife. Uses ceramic bearings that are just silky smooth. Liner lock, stainless steel liners. It's got one position for the pocket clip. It's kind of a skeletonized pocket clip, and that's a tip-up carry, which is what I would prefer. Only right-handed. It has, if you notice on the scales here, these micarta scales, you can see they're slightly recessed. Sometimes this is called shadow boxing, and that's actually a technique to prevent often the chipping or the damage to the very edge of scales. It's been done for a long time. Here is a survival knife, this Falcon Even. This is the S1X, and you can see they've done the same thing here. There's less chance that you're going to hook something under it or chip it or break it. Some people think that's an easier way to make the scales because they don't have to fit. Well, they actually have to fit quite well because they're smaller. You can't just throw the whole knife on the grinder and make the scale the same size because it's actually a little smaller. This uses a D2 steel. D2 is an excellent steel. It's used for a lot of different things, so it's not one of the knife-specific powder steels, but it has excellent properties. You can see right there, it says D2. Here's a Benchmade, a similar form. This little mini Griptilian also has the D2 steel there. Both of these knives are very similar in profile. This is slightly thinner. And this blade is just a hair longer, but it comes in, if we run that thing out, you can see that we're working with just under 3 inches. Look at that. Look at that. So I guess maybe for a jurisdiction or something that would require a sub 3-inch blade, this definitely has a sub 3-inch blade. The hollow ground is nice. Hollow grinds basically push the cheeks of the blade in higher up. So if this is the spine of the knife, the spine, and you're moving towards the edge, it actually bows in versus a flat grind where it's straight, or a convex grind where it actually bows out a little bit. Convex grinds, I really like them. This is a convex grind, so you can see how that bows out. Very strong. This is one of the criticisms sometimes on hollow grinds is you've narrowed the blade or narrowed the profile here well before the edge, so it is easier to bust these if you're really hard on it. However, Buck Knives has been making hollow grinds probably since the beginning. That's their most common blade profile. If I throw these guys on a scale, we'll compare these two here. So I've got a couple of scales. Here is the Benchmade Mini Griptilian. Throw that on, and the CIVIVI Elementum. You can see here I've got 74.8 grams and 77.3 grams. What's that in American? Basically, this is 2.7 ounces, 2.725 ounces, and 2.64 ounces. So they're almost identical. Both D2 steel. This uses a flat grind. This is a traditional drop point versus this, which is Mel Pardew's kind of famous shaped point, more his thing. Drop points are a really good solution to move the tip a little bit out of the way so you're not hooking it on things, but still remain a good useful tip. Not a fighting knife, it's a service knife. Whereas if you've used one of these Moras, this tip gets in the way if you're trying to do a lot of tasks. If you were ever doing skinning or gutting, or even some finer work with fabrics, it can grab really easy. Overall, the operation of this, pretty slick. This does have, as you can see, the cutouts for a lanyard. That's not unusual. It keeps the profile of the lanyard essentially within that of the scales. It's a common thing. Here's another, again, drop down, and really focuses it on the attachment point, and you're not going to end up messing up the scales or lifting the scales or something like that. So that's totally acceptable. And as you use a knife like this with the micarta, this and the satin finish here with the D2 steel, D2 steel's got about 12% chromium and 1.5% carbon, so it's not quite a stainless steel. It's approaching stainless steels, but it's not quite there. So this will age. Its corrosion resistance is great, but you can get some discoloration. A lot of D2 you might get it powder coated, but overall, for the price, for the options, it's a winner. And I'll be going to be looking into more knives. I want to make more videos about knives because they're fascinating tools for me. And as I study the small differences, you start to appreciate more about the knives and what they're capable of. But anyway, there it is. The kind of a brown-colored, beige-colored CIVIVI Elementum with micarta scales and the D2 blade steel. And with that, Doc out.